Welcome, bienvenidos, bienvenido to the Soccermetrics Copa Libertadores Show, a production of Soccermetrics and Soccer Down Here, the only English language podcast devoted to South America's premier club competition. I'm your host, Howard Hamilton, the founder of Soccermetrics. The Libertadores is now at the halfway point of the group stage. The calendar has been a bit strange this year, but the halves of the group stage are mirror images of each other. The first two matches on consecutive weeks, followed by an off week, then the third match day, followed by another off week. The next two match days will be on consecutive weeks, then another off week before the final match day at the end of the month. On this off week, it's a convenient time to take stock on where the 32 teams are in the competition and what they need to do to advance or just keep playing continental football after May. There are news to report about the Libertadores, and we'll start the show with this news roundup. Item 1. CONMEBOL punishes Rosario Central. This was an article in Argentina's La Nación newspaper on April 23rd, and a report in TSA Sports. Rosario Central were cited for incidents that occurred in their home match against Peñarol on April 4. These incidents include the use of fireworks, smoke bombs, and flares by fans, the throwing of objects, and the lack of order in and around the stadium before and after the match. The punishments that CONMEBOL laid down were the following. Rosario Central will be forced to play a closed-door match versus Atlético Mineiro on May 7th, which is their next home match. Their last home match in the group stage versus Caracas FC, all but away fans will be banned from the southern stand behind the goal. This was the section of Rosario Central Stadium where the incidents occurred in the match against Peñarol. In addition, Central were fined $50,000 US, and a $5,000 fine was issued to club president Gonzalo Pedroso for his role in a confrontation with players and directors of Peñarol. For their part, Peñarol were fined for the use of fireworks, smoke bombs, and flares by their fans, the throwing of objects, the lack of order in and around the stadium before and after the match, and for violating, quote, minimum guidelines of acceptable behavior. They were issued a $25,000 fine, and a $5,000 fine was issued to club president Juan Rubio. In addition, both clubs were put on notice that any further punishment or any further incidents would incur more significant punishments from the Confederation. Item 2. CONMEBOL announces draw for knockout rounds. CONMEBOL announced that the draw for the knockout rounds of the Copa Libertadores and Sudamericana will take place on June 3rd at their headquarters in Luque, Paraguay. Alejandro Dominguez, CONMEBOL president, made the announcement on his social media channels. Now, unlike UEFA, CONMEBOL makes a single draw at the start of the round 16, and the paths to the final are determined from that point. We'll have a special episode devoted to the knockout round draw when it happens. Item 3. Estadio Monumental may not host the final. As you know, CONMEBOL announced last year that the Libertadores final will take place in Buenos Aires. However, they haven't announced where in Buenos Aires the final will be. Earlier in April, CONMEBOL officials made tours of River Plate, Boca Juniors, and Racing Club Stadia. The speculation, according to TSA Sports, so take it for what it's worth, is that if River have a good chance of being the finalist, it is very possible that the final will not be at Estadio Monumental. A main reason for this is that Brazilian clubs are very resistant to allowing River Stadium to host a final. Now, consider that last year's final was at the Maracanã, where Fluminense play home matches in their state level and national tournaments. Fluminense were a finalist at last season's Libertadores. It's also important to remember that Estadio Monumental was recently renovated, and of the large stadiums in Buenos Aires, it is probably the stadium in the best condition to host a continental final. It is possible for River to finish as a top seed in the Libertadores knockout stage, especially if they defeat Nacional in Montevideo this month. Item 4, strongest changes manager. Pablo Lavagem resigned as manager of the strongest after they lost some penalties to Universidad del Vinto in the semifinals of the Bolivian Apertura tournament. They won the first leg 1-0 away, but they lost the decisive match at home 2-1, in which the winning goal was scored in the 87th minute. Strongest would go on to lose the penalty kick shootout 9-8. Lavagem said in his departure message, quote, "My time at the club has finished because we came here to be champions. I hope that the lads will continue to have a good Libertadores. I'm convinced that they will qualify for the next round, but these kind of results require important decisions." It is a surprising departure, to say the least. I think it's a rather harsh departure. Yeah, it's a very tough out for the strongest to exit the Apertura playoffs in such a manner, but they're still in a decent position in Libertadores to, if not advance to the knockout stages of the tournament, to continue playing continental football through the Copa Sudamericana. But Lavagem's decision is final, and that's how things will happen. Lavagem, who is 51 in Argentine, was at the club for only 4 months and coached the strongest in 13 matches across all competitions, recording 8 wins, 3 losses, and 2 draws. There are 3 possible candidates to replace Lavagem. Ismael Rescalvo, who is currently a manager at Mazatlan, formerly a strongest manager, who also had stints at Independiente del Valle and Emelec. He's a Spanish manager. A Bolivian manager, Eduardo Villegas, who is the current manager at GV Santa Jose and has coached the strongest on 3 separate occasions, as well as the Bolivian national team during the 2019 Copa America. And Mauricio Soria, who is also Bolivian, currently the manager at Aurora, and has previously managed strongest on 3 occasions and managed the Bolivian national team on 2 occasions. He's also a race car driver, incidentally. The next match for the strongest is a home match on May 9 versus Estudiantes de La Plata in the Copa Libertadores. And finally, item number 5, Gabigol reinstated. According to Argentine sports daily Ole, Barbosa, who was given a 2-year sanction for refusing to submit to an anti-doping test before a training session, requested a suspension of his punishment, and the Court of Arbitration in Sport in Switzerland ruled unanimously in his favor. So now the sanction is suspended until 2026. The date of the appeal hearing to his punishment is unknown at this time. But the good news for him, and especially for Flamengo, is that he is now available to play for the club immediately. And he, in fact, did play in a Copa do Brasil match versus a second division team, Amazonas, on Wednesday night. He played 26 minutes but didn't score a goal. Flamengo's next matches will be away to Red Bull Bragantino on Saturday, and then away to Palestino in Copa Libertadores on May 7th. That's the end of part one of the show. In part two, I'll review the first half of the group stage. Part two of the Soccermetrics Copa Libertadores Show, a production of Soccermetrics and Soccer Down Here. And now we're reviewing the first half of the group stage. There are so many ways to do this. Group the high flyers, pretenders, and stragglers into different groups. Go group by group. Take a high-level view or a deep dive. Some of those approaches will take hours, and even if you're a South American football aficionado, I doubt you have the patience to listen to me talk for 2 hours. I don't think I have the patience to talk for 2 hours. So instead, what I'm going to do is I'll go through each group and tell you where each team stands, what I'm seeing in the advanced metrics, and the likelihood of each team advancing. It'll be a bit high level in spots, a bit more detailed in others, but at the end of it, you'll get an idea of where the teams and the groups are at. Now, there's something I want you to keep in mind as we go through the groups, and that is order of play. It's important considering how strong home field advantage is in this tournament. I know I'm saying that after a match day with 5 away wins, but I'm really telling you that it is very real, especially in the Andean countries. So here's how the groups will play out for the remainder of the group stage. On match day 4, seed number 3 will host seed number 2, while seed number 4 will host seed number 1. On match day 5, seed number 1 will host seed number 2. Seed number 2 will host seed number 4. And on the last match day 6, seed number 1 will host seed number 3, while seed number 4 will travel to play at seed number 2. So the way that this breaks down for every seed, so every team that was in those 4 individual buckets at the beginning of the group stage, the top seed team has 1 away match remaining and will finish with 2 consecutive home matches. The number 2 seed has 2 consecutive away matches and will play their final match at home. The 3rd seed has 2 consecutive home matches and will play their final match on the road. The number 4 seed has 1 home match remaining and will finish out the group with 2 consecutive away matches. So with the preliminaries and the explainers out of the way, let's start with Group A. So in Group A, we have Fluminense, the top seed, with 5 points. They're followed closely by Colo-Colo, the 4th seed, the 2nd seed, Cerro Porteño, and the 3rd seed, Alianza Lima, 2 points behind the pack. It's a group that is a very compact group. I think it's a group that is essentially a 3-team race at the moment. And all 3 of those teams, Fluminense, Colo-Colo, Cerro Porteño, can finish anywhere in the top 3. The interesting thing about this group is that all 4 teams in the group have a below average XG per 90. And only 1 player among these 4 teams has a total non-penalty XG that ranks in the top 50 of all players who have registered at least 1 shot on goal. What is also interesting is that with the exception of Alianza Lima, all the teams have a below average expected goals allowed per 90 minutes. In fact, Alianza and Cerro Porteño have defensive shot conversion rates in the top five. So it's not a very high scoring group. It's not a group in which a lot of chances are being generated. It is a very defensive group. Um, I think it's a group that will remain tight through the conclusion of the group stage. But at the end of it, I expect Fluminense to finish top of the group. I think Cerro will get past Colo Colo. I think at least one Paraguayan team is good to make a run out of the group stage and into the knockout stages. So I think Cerro will finish second. Colo Colo will slot into third place, so they will play Copa Sudamericana in the late summer and fall. And Alianza Lima will wrap up continental football at the conclusion of this month. Group B is an interesting group in which we see the third seed, Talleres de Cordoba, topping the group. They have been the best team so far in this group, and they've achieved 4 points from their away matches. Following Talleres is the top seed, Sao Paulo FC. As as disappointing or as relatively disappointing as their campaign has been so far, they still have an excellent chance of winning the group. I'd say better than even chance of winning the group. Those two remaining home matches in their back pocket against Barcelona and Talleres, they have a very accessible match against Cobresal. They still have an opportunity to leapfrog Talleres into first place. They have the better XG differential. They are creating quality chances. Their XG per shot is higher than any other team. The issue for Sao Paulo, the issue for the Tricolor is that they are not putting more pressure on the goal. And that is putting pressure on their defense. If you're not scoring, you're not winning. And that's a situation that Sao Paulo finds himself in. Following Talleres and Sao Paulo are both Barcelona, the second seed, who are in third. They're likely to remain in third. And the fourth seed, Cobresal, who are likely to remain fourth. I believe that Cobresal are arguably the weakest Chilean team in the group stage. Group C is perhaps the most even group in the group stage, and this is a group in which everything has been turned upside down. Leading the group is the fourth seed, Huachipato. The Steelers are champions of Chile. They really deserve to be acknowledged as the best Chilean team in the group stage. I think they are probably the most surprising team in this competition so far. And they kind of have a steel curtain, pardon the pun. They have the best defensive shot conversion rate in the group stage. The third seed, the strongest, are the second team or the second ranked team in Group C. Um, it's really perplexing that their manager chose to leave because they aren't in a bad situation. They can still advance out of this group, surprisingly so. Um, the issue for them is that their advanced metrics aren't very good. Only 7 players on their squad have been credited with shots on goal or toward goal. It's the fewest number of players for a given team in the group stage. And they're overly dependent on Enrique Tiverio and Luciano Ursino. In third place is Estudiantes de La Plata. I consider them to be the next best team in the group. They have a Copa de la Liga final this weekend against Villa Sarsfield. But that home loss to Gremio was really damaging to their chances because they have to play their next 2 matches away from home. One of those home matches is against the strongest, and is against the side of the new manager. So even though they are playing in La Paz, gain a point from that situation has to be a top priority for that side. Bringing up the rear is Gremio, the top seed. I don't think it's too surprising that Gremio have encountered difficulty in the group stage. They are only in the Copa Libertadores because of Luis Suarez. And with Luis Suarez not there, they found it very difficult to pick up his goal scoring production. I think what is really worrying for that side is that despite having two players in the top 25 in non-penalty expected goals, they have only managed to score one goal in the group stage. That's not good enough at this level of competition. Group D is another even group. It's a group that's led by second seed Junior on 5 points. They are a team that creates a lot of chances, but they're also a team that concedes a lot of chances. They haven't been as strong in their they haven't been as strong playing at home. Um, I think their two home matches have ended in draws, but they have that away win against Botafogo that has been huge. Trailing Junior by a point are the top seed Liga Deportiva Universitaria de Quito and Universitario of Peru, both on 4 points. The fourth seed, Botafogo, have 3 points. They have been playing better in Brazil as of late, but they have to win their next home match, and they play Liga in match day 4. If they don't win that match, I think it's very difficult for them to finish in the top 2 and advance. They still might have a chance to get past Universitario, but winning their last home match is absolutely critical to any hope of continuing to play continental football. Group E is led by second seed Bolivar on 9 points. They are one of 3 teams in the group stage that still have a perfect record at this stage of the competition. Bolivar aren't too much of a surprise to those who have been following South American football over the last year or so. They advanced to the final 8 in the Copa Libertadores last season. It is surprising to see a Bolivian team reach that stage of continental competition, but they are a legit side. They are legitimately a top 3 side in this competition. They're an older side, but they are an experienced side. Ramiro Vaca, Bruno Savio, Leonel Justiniano, Francisco da Costa. They are second to Peñarol in expected goals, but their expected goals against ranks middle of the pack among the group stage teams. Lying in second place is the top seed Flamengo. And the most important news about Flamengo is that Gabigol is back. Gabriel Barbosa, their leading scorer, their spark plug, their just inspiring player. They still have a great midfield. Players such as Georgian de Arrasqueta, Diego de la Cruz, but as Gabriel Barbosa goes, so do Flamengo. And then trailing Bolivar and Flamengo are Palestino and Millonarios, who really aren't on the same level as the top 2 teams. Palestino, the 4th seed, are in 3rd. Millonarios bring up the rear as the 3rd seed. Millonarios' problem is that they let in goals at a worrying rate. Their defensive shot conversion rate is the worst among the group stage teams. Group F is led by Palmeiras. who I thought was a contender for the Libertadores title. I still think they're a Libertadores contender. They lead the group on 7 points. Yeah, they have the best shot conversion rate of any team in the group stage. What is worrying for them is that their expected goals against is very high. If you compare their expected goals per 90 to their expected goals against per 90, that differential is a scant 0.06. But the reason why Palmeiras are top of this group is because they don't allow a lot of shots. In particular, they don't allow a lot of shots from open play. And it'll be interesting to see if that continues um, through the remainder of the group stage. Trailing Palmeiras is the second seed, Independiente del Valle. They're the best of what is left in this group. Um, they were candidates to finish above Palmeiras in first place. I think if that match in Ecuador had finished in a draw, they might have been in a really good position to finish first. But that late goal that wrapped up an absolutely dramatic match really crippled Independiente del Valle's chances of finishing top in the group. I still think that they have a really good chance of finishing second, but they need points from their last two away matches. And they're away to San Lorenzo and then away to Palmeiras. In third place is Liverpool de Montevideo. Liverpool scored a very dramatic win of their own at the very end against San Lorenzo. It's probably a result they didn't deserve, but they got the win. They're in a really strong position to finish third. And bring up the rear is third seed San Lorenzo. Liverpool and San Lorenzo just aren't on the same level as Palmeiras and IDV. In fact, I consider their match day 5 encounter to be essentially a Copa Sudamericana playoff. In Group G, we see the second seed Atletico Mineiro topping the group on 9 points. The second of the three teams that have a perfect record in the group stage so far. Their shot conversion rate is best, yet at least of all teams in the group stage, at least almost three standard deviations above the group stage average. Does this team have the best midfield in the Libertadores? I think there's a good case that they just might have that. I think they have the most impressive play so far. Gabriel Milito has done an excellent job with their possession-based play, and they just dominate. They've dominated matches to an extent that no other team has in the group stage so far. I think that away match to Rosario Central will decide first in the group. Following Atletico are Rosario Central, the third seed. Now they have the stadium closure issue. They have the partial stadium closure issue in their final match day, in their final home match. They yeah, I said I think they have a chance to finish. They have a chance to finish first. I think more than likely they may finish second, or they may even finish third. I think the off-field stuff probably won't affect them too much, but they are going to be. I don't think they will challenge Mineiro, and they're going to be challenged by Peñarol, who lie in third. They're the top seed, and that match against Central on the final match day will decide. It probably won't decide first, but it will definitely decide second. Yeah, Peñarol are a very interesting team in that they have the highest expected goals per 90. But keep in mind that metric has been heavily skewed by the Caracas match, which is just an absolute rout. Caracas are the bottom team in the group. They are the fourth seed. They're the bottom team by a very wide margin. Caracas are essentially at Wing Pernilla, and that's about it. Um, I think the point that they got at home to Rosario Central was the high point of the group stage, and particularly damaging to Central. Only 8 players for Caracas FC have produced a shot. That is tied for second fewest with Millonarios, um, and one more than the strongest, for whom 7 players have produced a shot. And finally, we go to Group H. Group H is headed by the top seed River Plate on 9 points. They're the third of the 3 teams that are perfect through the group stage. They are one of the best teams in this competition in everything except the eye test. Di Michelis has been under constant criticism for his team's play, some of which has been justified. I think some of it has been because of the frustrating play of their frontline players, in particular Miguel Borja. Borja has the highest non-penalty expected goals metric without actually scoring a goal in the group stage. But the good news for River is that they are a talented side, and they are a side that can ride out their talent and win matches. And they have shown that in every one of the 3 matches that they've played. Trailing River is the 4th seed Nacional. I consider Nacional to be the best number 4 seed alongside Huachipato. But I think Huachipato are a little bit better. Following Nacional are the 2nd seed Libertad of Paraguay and the 3rd seed Deportiva Táchira of Venezuela. I consider Deportiva Táchira to be the 2nd weakest team in the group stage of Copa Libertadores. So that's how I see all 8 of these groups shaking out. And turning to the individual players, I'm not going to give you what I think is a best 11. I think it's a little bit early for that. But here are the players who I think have been standout players so far in the group stage. And you have strikers such as Paulinho of Atletico Mineiro, Francisco da Costa of Bolivar, Maxi Silveira of Peñarol, Marquinhos of Fluminense, and then midfielders such as Ray Paez of IDV, Leo Fernandez of Peñarol, Santiago Ascasibar of Estudiantes de La Plata, Ruben Bota of Talleres de Córdoba, Ramiro Vaca, Bolivar, defenders, Guillermo Arana of Atletico Mineiro, and goalkeepers such as Luis Mejia of Nacional. I'm sure that I'm hurting someone's feeling by leaving certain players out, but those are players who have stood out to me so far. Those are players who have stood out in the advanced metrics so far in the group stage. And now, when considering the best match of the group stage so far, I think without question it would be the IDV versus Palmeiras match in match day 3. Palmeiras came back from 2 goals down. The 2 goals from IDV were from the top drawer. Ray Paez is just a sensational player. Chelsea got their hooks into him. It's really clear that he's going to be the next big thing to come out of Independiente del Valle. Palmeiras came back. The final goal that won the match was just out of the top drawer. It was really a sensational goal. It was really a sensational finish. It was an absolute gut punch if you're an IDV supporter, but it was really a fantastic game to watch with a really dramatic finish. And the honorable mention is a match from the first match day of the group stage, Talleres de Cordova versus Sao Paulo. I think it was a match in which Talleres announced their intent in this competition. I think Sao Paulo were really, they were really stung by the fact that they were trying to ride out the halftime in order to get some badly needed substitutions onto the field because they didn't want to use up the last of their substitutions. And Talleres exploited that moment in order to score the go-ahead goal. Um, but it was really great play. It was a really great moment. Like the crowd in Cordova was really intense. It's a match in which if you were new to Copa Libertadores and you wanted to show someone that this is what Libertadores football is like, you would show that match to that person. So that is it for my review of the first half of the group stage. So if you want to follow me and send a comment or question, my Twitter or X handle is @Soccermetrics. You can also send questions or comments to @SoccerDownHere or Jason Longshore at @Longshoe. We will answer your questions about the tournament in a future episode. And as always, we appreciate your comments on the show. The group stage of the Copa Libertadores resumes next week with the fourth match day, and I'll be back next Monday to preview those matches. This has been the Soccermetrics Copa Libertadores Show, a production of Soccermetrics and Soccer Down Here. See you later. Hasta luego e até mais.